can join after.
We do have 5 out of the 7, so we do have a quorum.
So today was a busy day, especially for the coordinators and department chairs that you see here. This was the full district PD day, so everybody was scrambling from building to building, room to room. So,
sorry,
a lot of excitement and energy.
You are live.
Come to this.
It was our first day with students, and I'm like,
Oh.
it was like that extra early morning too, because you have to get up. You know, PD is a little nice when you get that 1 extra hour. It feels like where, like,
You have to hit the ground running.
Well, yeah, that's for high school teachers. Elementary has to get up an hour early, so they're
right. Feels like sleeping in on PD days, Harold. I'm like, wow.
Lou, did you say we're live?
Mm-hmm. I was just going to tell you, Linda, hopefully my computer doesn't cut off on me. It keeps telling me it's going to restart in 4 minutes, and I keep saying no and closing it. So if I get booted off, I'll be back on as soon as it does what it needs to do. But I can't seem to stop the updates that happen with my computer sometimes.
Okay.
And I'll catch up with the recording after if I have to. But we do have a quorum right now, so we're confirmed with that.
Linda, please hit record on the meeting.
I will. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Osundi. Lou, am I recording to the computer or the cloud?
The cloud is best.
Recording in progress.
So we are now recording.
And we'll give Karen and Robin 1 more minute. 6:29. Oh my gosh, look what happened. Here's Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi, sorry.
No worries. You're on time.
If Robin, this says this meeting is being recorded. Continue. Okay. If Robin Proto isn't on here, it's because she's having trouble with her Wi-Fi, and might be walking across the street to join me.
A curriculum party. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's 6:30, so let's get started in the interest of being respectful of everybody's time. Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening's curriculum committee meeting. It's our first since April. We do have a quorum, and let's move on to our approval of meeting minutes. Motion to approve by Janice. Second. Second by Karen. Roll call vote. Janice.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Monica.
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
And we still don't have Robin, and co-chair votes yes. Moving on, items for review, possible action. We're going to get an update on the African American, Black, and Puerto Rican Latino Studies course from Mrs. Schmidt.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you all as we begin our year. So, as you know, last year when we presented, our district decided to become initial implementers of this unit, and I'm very excited to say that we have at Stratford High School 2 classes of 25 students in each, and at Bunnell we have 3 classes of 21, 24, and 16 students. We've done a whole lot of work over the summer. As you saw in the link, the year-long course was released, and the exciting part is that we started the training this summer to get teachers and to have administrators be a part of it. We had a leadership launch that Dr. Gata, Kirsten, Liz, and I attended, and that was on a full day on July 14th. And then we have 2 cadres running. At the end of July, we had Cadre 1 and Cadre 2 do a 5-day training. For this school year, we have our second training will occur at the end of September from each cadres, and those are 2 days. We have another 2-day training that we attend at the end of November, beginning of December. The third training will occur at the beginning of February for each cadre. Our final training will be the end of March. And then the exciting part is there will be a showcase on June 9th where the teachers, Dr. Gaeta, I will be there, the department chairs will be there, and they will have a showcase, and that they're hoping that it's in person. So the meetings so far have been virtual, but they are hoping to have in-person meetings. As a part of being initial implementers, our responsibility is going to be providing feedback to the Connecticut State Department of Education and CERC, the State Education Resource Center, as they go and either revise the course itself or the assessments. So that is the update that we have as of right now as to what is happening with the African American, Puerto Rican, and Latino course.
Allison.
Who's giving the training? The state?
Yes, the State Department of Education and CERC is doing it together.
Okay, right now it's all virtual, so you were saying, so the teachers will essentially be doing it from, they'll get coverage and be doing it from somewhere in the room or in the building, or?
Yes, so the future course is, yes, is a 2-day. I haven't been, they haven't told us whether it's in person. It says to be announced or determined. And then we haven't received the times yet either. But as soon as I get that information, it's my responsibility to make sure that I give the names to the person we're working with, Heather, at the state, so that she makes sure everyone receives the links or all the information.
Sorry, 2 more questions. When you say showcase, I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not either. I think it's going to be whatever they tell us needs to be put together in order to show the work that's been done throughout the year. So anytime we've had showcases in our district, it's always been wonderful to see the work of students. So I'm assuming that it's going to be something very similar to that.
Okay. And my last question is, how many teachers at the end of this will have had the training?
So we have 1 teacher at Stratford High and 3 teachers at Benel. And our two department chairs as well, and then Dr. Gaeta and I.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we are going to hear about conversations on race curriculum.
I think we have those of you who are not speaking, if you could mute yourselves, let's see if that helps.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all again. Just want to introduce the course one more time for us. The partnership serves as a bridge between our 2 communities and helps to reinforce concepts such as diversity, citizenship, broadening perspectives, and building friendships. The course is student-based and student-centered, discussion-based, and requires active and honest participation. The purpose is to explore and discuss race relations in a safe and respectful manner in order to address important historical and contemporary issues from an informed perspective. There are multiple opportunities for students to self-reflect and participate in community action. So I'm going to let Liz give you an overview of the units which we shared with you earlier.
So we were working to take the Newtown curriculum and create it so that it works with Stratford as well. So when you looked at the curriculum, you saw that there were 3 units that we're working with. The first one really is about effective communication and influence on perspective. So, coming out of a pandemic, students are obviously going to have some issues communicating. They haven't really seen each other in a long time. So that this unit's really going to focus on their sharing of perspectives. Teachers are going to go over discussion protocols. We can actually use some of the protocols from the AfricanAmerican Latino course that were shared and some of those critical frameworks that they gave us. Sentence stems to acknowledge, where your perspective is coming from. So the beginning of the unit really does focus on them exploring their identities, personal identities and social identities that play into their perspective. and then approaching conversations there on out, acknowledging, how their perspective might be different from others. So you'll notice in the semester-long course compelling questions, we have in what ways have people throughout history and contemporary times challenged perspectives that are harmful to themselves or others. We definitely want this to be a course that's coming, that's approaching the assets of students that they're bringing to the table, not necessarily a deficit mindset. So you'll see a lot of the questions do focus on the positive while also exploring the history that comes along with, the perspectives and inequalities that we see today. So Unit 1 is about effective communication and influence on perspective. When you move into Unit 2, that's where we start focusing on the history of inequality. You'll notice that there are many essential questions rooted in the civil rights movement. This particular unit is really going to contextualize race relations through the analysis of primary and secondary sources using a range of perspectives in the sources that teachers are pulling with students. They will explore a more complete history with a focus on contributions of underrepresented groups and facilitating change. So looking at that and how that was done in history to transition into how that's being done now in contemporary times. And this comes right before the action project at the end. We also have, as far as some of the guiding questions that fall under that category, what was the civil rights movement and how has it impacted society? How have people fought for freedom and justice throughout history and today? Moving on to Unit, we'll stay within Unit 2 for just a moment for the civil rights movement. They're going to be exploring people who have contributed to the civil rights movement and progress. And their mid-unit assessment is going to ask them to synthesize key events during that movement that might have played, justify a large impact on progress in the civil rights movement. So we do have them working in groups, talking about and justifying their opinions, embedded in many of the assessments that you'll see, and also in the formative assessments. Formative assessments are options for teachers that within the unit, so you'll see that it just gives it as an option in Unit 2. One of these options, we have students researching and providing their own research to write a narrative of a fictional interview of an individual from a specific racial group, explaining how he or she asserted their agency and resistance to individually or collectively spark revolutionary change, preserve their own humanity, and resist slavery. We do give them a list of people to choose from. Some of these came up in the AfricanAmerican Latino course as well, and resources were passed on by the, I'm forgetting the organization right now, Venture Smith in particular, but I can get you the name of that, those resources that were passed on. For the final unit, this is where the action project takes place, so it moves them into the current times. They're going to work with their partnership school, and students will engage in a civic action project or a service learning project. We'd be calling it, so it addresses an identified community issue that's impacting the quality of life of individuals or groups. We do want them to source solutions and address real-world issues. This is really going to ask them to question why and what they're seeing in their communities and bring their experiences to the table. The experiences of the people in their community could serve as primary sources as part of their analysis. We do provide the different stages of the civic action project, so it should be aligned with that. I believe in our school, Inspire Ed is doing something very similar with the Civic Action Project, and we did talk with Denise Massari and thinking about how we can kind of bring Inspire Ed students together with this particular course, maybe before the conclusion of the semester course, to see how they can maybe plan a portion together or possibly present together at the end. But again, that's a work in progress. We would like to use that maybe as a way of informing about the course, getting more buy-in for the course, moving forward, because we do think that bringing students' own narratives to the table is important. We do want to make uplift their voices, and it's definitely in line with the anti-racist and anti-bias policy that the district is putting forward. So making sure that we do our best to kind of align the practices in the classroom to that. In the back of the curriculum, on the final page for 6, we talk a little bit about the Civic Action Project, making sure that we think a little bit about the understanding of systems impact. So when they are thinking about their Civic Action Project, making sure it's not an isolated event, but how can we kind of make a change in the community that maybe impacts people as a whole, or a large set of people, so it's a lasting impact rather than an isolated event, as I had mentioned. There are a couple of examples in there that teachers can maybe explore with students or give them some ideas. We also did talk with, I would like to get more community in stakeholder engagement in the Civic Action Project. I would like to move forward and think about how we can use the Stratford PEP program, which the police engagement program, to maybe think about how they can come in and talk about how they're maybe addressing inequalities, or how the police have taken measures in their own in the community to work with citizens towards change. That could be something that maybe we bring to the table with students. We did talk to Curtis Eller, and he would like to maybe see if we can work something out with that for this particular curriculum.
Sounds amazing. Like, can I come take the course? Does anybody have any questions other than that?
Thank you.
Allison.
One question is, I saw on the curriculum guide for whichever one was attached. Sorry, that's hard not having a printout. The conversations on race curriculum, that is 11th and 12th grade. The other course, and there's a lot of overlapping of ideas, which is great. I'm just curious what grades that was focused, what kind of the, the pathway, I guess. Yeah, what grade would they take it in? Would they take both courses?
So 11th and 12th is also the African Latino Studies course, and it is a year-long elective.
Other courses elective, or that's going to be a graduation requirement?
They're both elective courses that count towards graduation, but yes, they're electives.
And then, Allison, I'll just also add, with the AfricanAmerican Latino course, they provided interdisciplinary and supplemental activities that could be incorporated into other classes. So they're not necessarily the same activity, while there might be components that are similar, especially in Unit 1 with perspectives and identity. Some of the activities, I want to say the activities that we are borrowing from the African-American Latino course were supplemental or offered as interdisciplinary. So they're not the same thing, but they might cover similar concepts.
Is it possible for Liz and Kirsten to tell us how many students have registered for this course or enrolled in this course?
At Stratford High School, we currently have 18 for semester 1, and then we transition to 17 for semester 2. We're excited that these students have opted in to take this elective, so they definitely want to talk about these issues. At Benel, Kirsten, do you have the numbers over there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at Benel first semester, we have 24 students currently enrolled, and we have 27 in the spring. And of course, those numbers hopefully will even grow, especially from fall to spring when the students realize what a great course it is.
And Liz, did you want to mention something about the texts that are used? Because there is one particular text that you're looking to have be a core text.
Yes. So right now, the core text that is used across Newtown and what we would be using up in all in Stratford High would be the Hate You Give. So that would really most likely be implemented in Unit 2. So that's the only core text we actually have now that everybody would get a copy of and read together. This particular text, it's by Angie Thomas. So she does talk a little bit about, you know, the weaponizing of stereotypes in this particular text. So it's a person of color who lives in a community with you know, peers and faces her own issues, but then goes to a predominantly white school. So you get kind of a little bit of both different perspectives coming through in the text. And then the main character does witness violence and police brutality. So, you know, the author in general does approach the text in a respectful way to you know, having the conversation, while also addressing issues that are contemporary issues that are in the news and the kids are seeing. In this particular unit, because we are focusing, you know, we have the kids reading the Hate You Give, which is a popular text. We do have essential questions and guiding questions that ask how, you know, what is racial profiling and what's the police doing in your own community to address these issues. So we're trying to tie that together. That would be kind of an ideal place for the Stratford Police Department to come in and talk a little bit about the measures that they have been doing in their own community. So they have quite a few programs. They came in and talked to administrators. They are all of the leadership in the Stratford Police Department seems to be graduates of Stratford High School. So we love that connection there. So again, it's just another place to bring the community in and really think about how we can kind of source those stakeholders to fuel the conversations and you know, bring in a couple of different viewpoints. But that's the core text we're using for this particular unit. For this unit. Allison?
I just want to confirm that wasn't, I know in my high school that the Hate You Give is actually part of the English curriculum that I think they read at maybe grade level 10, and I just wanted to confirm that if it was, obviously we're replacing it or we're changing that curriculum or adapting as necessary.
The ELA department is doing a curriculum revision right now with text. We are looking to see how we can bring in diverse voices, and we did make some purchases, and we're going to pilot a couple texts in the ELA curriculum. The Hate You Give is a text that they have in their classrooms, and it could definitely be used as a book club where kids self-select those texts. It's not a core text anywhere in the ELA curriculum. We're making it a core text in this particular class because it lends itself to you know, those types of conversations. I don't want you to think that we're not pulling in history and nonfiction and arguments. There are you might have seen the other list that were the text that we listed as resources that are optional as book clubs that students can explore. They're listed on, I believe, page 5. So it's not. This isn't the only list. Obviously, we're trying to encourage students to self-select some texts that are of interest to them, or maybe issues in their own community that apply to their particular race. But the Hate You Give is the only one that we have on there.
Robin.
Quick question. One, I think Allison just said this. The level of the Hate You Give reading level, 10th grade, is that sound right? Because I guess one of the other things I'm interested in is, do we have text at different levels for students that may be special education or lower readers? I wouldn't want them to be knocked out of getting this information and having conversations, texts that are leveled for them.
Right. When we think of, or Kirsten, do you want to take this?
Go ahead.
Okay. When we think of grade level appropriateness for text, there's a couple of things that play a part in that. So, you know, there's text complexity having to do with syntax and vocabulary, and then there's also content. This particular text is at a reading level that would be accessible to students in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade. It's really the content that becomes a little controversial, and then it bumps it to a higher grade level, so to speak. So it's definitely appropriate. Will a teacher have to scaffold and differentiate to students? Absolutely. That's just part of best practice. But we can definitely take a look at that, Robin, and make sure that we pull a couple of other options into the optional list moving forward before we move into semester 2 when they're doing book clubs.
Thanks.
In preparing for this evening, Dr. Asunde and I had a conversation, and he has a little bit to add to this in terms of experience, I think. Surprise.
Dr. Gate, I had a feeling you were going to tag me in. So, reviewing this, I was quite impressed that Stratford's taking this on, and based on some of the work that happened at Newtown. As I was reading this, my sending district, i.e. the district I am coming to Stratford from, we actually began this work a few years back. So for me, it's refreshing to see that Stratford is diving into this, because I do feel like we are probably a few years behind. For me, looking at this is very appropriate, because our kids, certainly our juniors and our seniors, this is the age that they grew up in. Over the last 5 or 6 years is the social justice age. And we know we can, I don't want to say typecast different generations, but they're a generation of social justice. At Windsor High School, we actually did a one school, one read with the Hate You Give. So it's actually quite refreshing to see the way this is structured with the units. When I had a chance to review this a few days back in preparation for this meeting, to really see how the environment and those norms are being set about how to have productive discourse. And it's pretty neat to hear Elizabeth talk about this, or Liz talk about this, because we actually incorporated police officers in this process as well. It was a summer read. We had 3 selections, and Ms. Proto, to your point about accessibility to all readers, we didn't have any issues, and students were able to dive deep into conversations. It just so happened that what they did with this book was, a few years before everything that happened 2 summers ago across this country. So when I say the relevance is spot on, it's spot on. So looking at this work and knowing that Stratford is positioned to dive into this work, I really believe at my core, because I've seen it happen in other places, that you'll see kids dive into this topic and have conversations, right, in very collegial and academic ways around something that could be maybe a sensitive topic. And sometimes it's actually quite impressive to watch the kids do it, because they probably have these conversations with better sophistications than adults, right? So kudos to our team at Bunnell, Stratford High, Ms. Schmidt, everybody, the whole team has been working on this. I'm actually looking forward to popping into some of these classes.
Thank you, Dr. Sunday. We appreciate it. We're excited too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we need to take action on this, or is it just for review?
No, this we would hope that you would move to the board with a favorable recommendation.
Well,
and before you do that,
yes,
I just also wanted to add how excited I was, for us implementing this. And I know we have, other things that we're doing or planning, where we're making the content things that students want. This is like they've been asking for, and we know if they're interested in it, the outcomes is going to be even stronger. So this is really exciting, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I thought the book choice was also appropriate, because the content itself is one that you can have various levels of discussion on. It could go very complex, or you can have it at, I don't want to say lower level, but some simpler exchanges and some more advanced ones. So I thought that was appropriate. But I'm just truly, truly happy that we're making these steps forward in our district and meeting kids where they are and offering them things that they're really interested in. So thanks to everyone who's been working on this.
And you're welcome to come to Bunnell and Stratford High as well.
I need a tour of all the schools because we missed out on that,
Yeah, so. I'd like to make a motion to move this to the board with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Denise?
Yes, ma'am.
Robin?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Allison? And the co-chair also votes yes. So thank you, ladies, so much. That's very exciting.
I just who seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Second
did.
with Denise.
And I
Oh, Karen. I'm so sorry. Karen.
Karen. Okay, sorry. When people just say I can't.
It's a long day, my friends. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's okay. I have it now. Okay.
You got the second, Debbie?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Awesome.
And Karen was also a yes. So that was a unanimous yes to move on to the board with a favorable recommendation. Thank you so much. And now, Mr. Geist with visualizing mathematics curriculum.
Sure, thank you. I'll try to be relatively brief. I believe you got the Visualizing Mathematics curriculum in the Pony in PDF form. So I'll just put a little context behind it. The Visualizing Mathematics course is one that's been sort of kicked around. It evolved from another idea a few years ago, and it exists as a senior elective, which would take place after a student has completed Algebra 2, generally in their junior year, and follows that up. We were, before I talk about the course a little bit, we were able to get full NCAA approval for the course, so it does count for the NCAA piece. We had to go a little bit back and forth because they're a little bit tricky sometimes when you name a course, especially in math, that falls outside the realm of the traditional math name. So we had to go back and forth, supply them a lot of information, but they did approve the course. So it's one semester. Many students might take this paired up with a Statistics 1 course, or a College Algebra 1, or a Trigonometry. Those would be the general parents you'd see, or it's possible they would take this course by itself and not take a second semester as well. We're very flexible. So the Visualizing Math course was created by 3 of our teachers. Oddly enough, only one of them still works in the district, even though I'm presenting a brand new course. One of our middle school teachers who collaborated on the project took a job in her hometown to become a high school teacher. And one of our other high school teachers who collaborated on this course actually got a job with Sacred Heart University. So people are being, we're growing them well in Stratford, I guess, and we just have to keep replacing them with new math teachers. But Joe Delavecchia at Stratford High School is still here and was one of the lead writers of the curriculum. So the Visualizing Math curriculum is intended to be a very flexible curriculum that really puts a lot of emphasis on application of mathematics that students have learned over the previous 3 years of high school into their real world lives, or perhaps in things they haven't considered before. We originally anticipated putting together 4 units for this one semester course, but as we were looking at the different details within the units as well as some of the ideas we'd really like to see, we scaled it back to 3 units. That doesn't mean we couldn't come forward with a change in the future after we see how it goes for this year. But for right now, we wanted to scale back the number of things we were trying to pack in. So there is a unit on aviation, trying to tie into Stratford's aviation history with Sikorsky in obviously the north, and then Sikorsky Memorial Airport in the south. Interestingly enough, Dr. Data and I were invited to go to the Connecticut Air and Space Center that has just opened up recently in Stratford, and we're actually looking at ways that we might be able to tie that facility in with this unit in Visualizing Mathematics. Possibly not the first semester, because we're really getting things together right now, but we're looking forward in the future. The city of Stratford obviously not only has an aviation history, but we are also a coastal community, both having a river and being on Long Island Sound. So there's a lot in that about tide tables and looking at the changes over time, and even some work with navigation charts, which is quite interesting because I'm sure a lot of our students have possibly zero exposure to that. And then the third unit is really a more open unit around business in general. We were thinking originally about basing it on specific Stratford businesses, but they're really going to be tied in as we look at businesses both locally as well as within America and globally. A lot of pieces there about personal finance, about employment. There are some overlaps with the personal finance course that they take. We really tried to stress the mathematics a bit more in this course as opposed to the general personal finance course that is a graduation requirement. And one of the things that we're really hoping to build in over time, and it's a little tricky right now, is that each unit should be or will be associated over time with either a virtual or an in-person field trip. So as before I mentioned the possible visiting the Aviation Center down by the airport, also looking at with the business unit actually going to a local business and talk a little bit about that. The coastal community, obviously we can take trips to Short Beach, Long Beach, the river. There's a lot of opportunities for there. So the teachers are really excited about sort of getting this going and looking for ways to mold it over time. And the idea behind that fourth unit, another thought is if we do find we have time in the space for a fourth unit, we might even allow that and find a way to design that unit to be much more student choice. So in other words, look, here's the units that we've talked to you about. Here's some applications we've shown you in your local community. Now we want to see what you're thinking about. What are areas that you see applying your mathematics to, both in your community and your future life, and so forth. So anyway, that is the course. Don't know if anyone has any questions about it.
Karen?
Harold, have you talked to Kelly Kerrigan on the town side? She's our conservation superintendent. She might be able to help you with some of the coastal, because they do a lot of, we've done through Conservation Commission, which I participated, there's water studies that are being done, and it's math calculations as far as, nitrogen content and all that. And that might help you with your creative field trip or something. So just a thought.
No, it's a wonderful idea. I just wrote it down that we can reach out and try to link that in. We've tried to do a few things, timely, like you're talking about, like recent studies, analyzing the mathematics and implementing. We tried to do that once where Bob David had a beaver problem in his backyard up by Roosevelt Forest.
My backyard too, and Robin's.
But thank you. I will put that down. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Allison?
Well, first, I just have to comment that I hope everyone on this committee understands the importance of having electives for seniors in mathematics. With the new graduation requirements, I was so excited to see this, and I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of kids that aren't taking traditional paths, so applause. And then the other applause was any type of field trip in math. I'm like, a field trip? Very exciting. I absolutely love all of it. The only thing I would say in the curriculum document, why don't we list the supplemental unit? I'm just curious, point, and I feel like it should be there.
Yeah, they didn't. At this point, they weren't sure that the amount of content we already have in the other three units is in the first year that we're running it, that they would be able to do it justice and fit the fourth unit. But after we run it for a semester, if you want me to come back at the end of the semester and maybe give an update about the possibility of putting in that supplemental choice unit, we might be able to do that. I think they were just concerned about making sure that the content they've already put forward will fit within one semester.
I just know on certain curriculum documents, it's almost like it's listed as supplemental, not getting to it, but there as a resource for teachers should that opportunity arise. I think it'd be great just.
That unit that almost nobody ever teaches because.
Correct. Only the people who outpace everyone else, and they're like, "What do we do now?" But there's always one, Harold.
Sure, absolutely. I'll put that down, and we might do a quick revision and bring it back just for a review. Obviously, it would be because it would be a student choice based unit. It would be a very brief unit to sort of put together and write the parameters around.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great.
And just, making a plug for more field trips in math and science, there is unfortunately this board policy that restricts our ability to go to amusement parks for the calculations and the physics. So, if there's any power you guys have to maybe change that.
You never did calculations there, Harold. I remember that trip senior year.
Dead. Lake compounds.
Lake compounds.
Who hasn't gone there? I'm just impressed of how interdisciplinary this is. And there's all kinds of things. There's history and geography with all the things in town. There's all the science mixed in as well as the math. Going back to what we said about the other curriculum we saw tonight, it will make it more interesting. there's something there for everyone to like. And I think it will push kids into taking another math class that they might not have wanted to take before.
I agree
now, essentially. So we need it.
Harold, this is some months back, right, when the team met, you guys were discussing, this is the course you guys were discussing, and, about like the real life, incorporating the real life areas into this subject. So I love that. It's really exciting. And, like Robin said, even the course before this that we talked about, the overlap is great, because now you might find students start to pay attention to something or a particular subject that they really weren't interested in before, but they're seeing connection in something that they like, right? So I love the sort of that connection between the different subject matters. So great job.
Thanks. And that's one thing, just to give you guys a heads up on. I talked to Dr. Gate about it, so it's not a big surprise. But one of the things about this course, and I keep kind of wanting to, I was sort of I'm waiting for you guys to push back on me a little bit, saying like, why aren't they applying the mathematics in the course while they're taking it instead of waiting until senior year, right? And the reality is they do. Obviously, there are application-based problems, but one of the things we're going to be really taking a hard look at this year, and we let the math teachers know that today, actually during their opening meeting, is that we are going to be looking at our Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 course sequence, which we did an initial revision on when Common Core first came through. But, I think there's a lot of agreement that it needs some more work. Now that we've got a more mature understanding of Common Core, and also the fact that, our students that are coming into the high school have had a core experience leading up to it now that the students back then didn't have. So we'll probably be coming back to the curriculum committee later this year with some recommendations from the teachers.
Making a note. Something to push back on.
Well, I don't know. The other thing I noticed too about this curriculum is, your online resources. Typically when you're bringing a new course forward, we're talking about resources and purchasing a book and things like that. But there's such a such a variety of resources now that we can use what's out there. You might have to borrow some equipment, right, from maybe the science department or something, right, when you get out to do your visits and that.
Yeah, I know the person that coordinates the science department, so it should be pretty easy to do.
Okay, speaking of which.
Wonderful. All right, super exciting. So, can I get a motion to move this onto the board with a favorable recommendation?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Janice. Second? Karen?
Karen had her hand up.
Yes, perfect. Okay, roll call vote. Janice?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
And the co-chair votes yes. Thank you so much. It's another class I would like to go back to high school and take, so I might have to re-enroll at some point. Exciting. And now, moving on to physical science curriculum. You're up again.
Yep. So physical science is, again, a semester course. It's not necessarily an elective, but I do want to explain where it sits within the realm of the NGSS and as well as non-NGSS courses, because we have some of those too that go beyond the standards. So for students taking physical science, these would be students that, generally speaking, are not taking a traditional physics course. So obviously we have our traditional physics courses that cover a huge breadth of information with mechanics and electricity, as well as light and sound, whereas the physical science course is really designed around the NGSS standards, which are a little bit lighter. It's designed not to be a math-intensive course specifically, unless, of course, the standard itself calls for a certain level of mathematics support. One of the issues that we always had in the past with science is that students' ability to move through our science courses was tied inextricably to their math course placement. And that was really the only area that we had in that situation. So we've been working on detaching those two things over time. So the physical science course, again, is 1 semester. It would, generally speaking, fall in a student's junior year. Especially based on some of the math that is required, there should be no problem if they were in a junior year class. It is based largely on forces in motion. I'm just reminding myself of the units as I go through. Specifically, it was actually a lot of fun. I have to say that. A lot of fun creating this course. Not that I was the lead creator, but working with the team that put it together, all of which are still employed in Stratford. I know the last team, we had a little breakup. And because my background is not only in mathematics, but as a physics teacher, and so this was a lot of fun to work with the team on. And once we came around to the conceptual idea of how the course would be put together, the team really started bundling the different standards together. So we have a unit on contact forces in motion. We have a unit on field forces like magnetic force or Newton's law of gravitation. Then a big piece on energy systems. And then last, kind of like what Allison was referencing before, we have this unit on wave interactions. And the wave interactions unit is purposely put at the end, not only because it belongs there, especially after we've gone through the other pieces, especially the energy part, but also because the state of Connecticut has come out and told us directly that in the in the next generation science standards assessment they're doing, they are de-emphasizing waves. So if we're going to put anything toward the end of the unit, it made sense to put something that is going to be de-emphasized in the assessments, but it also technically belonged there no matter what. So it all worked out. So this, again, was largely written by physical science, or rather general science and physics teachers, but it was written at a different kind of a level than you would experience if you went to a full physics course. I don't know if you have any additional questions on that. This one, again, like the mathematics course, will not require the purchasing of additional textbooks, and also makes use, by and large, of the materials and lab equipment that we already have in place in the science labs.
Thank you for specifying that. We always appreciate knowing that ahead of time.
Oh, and this one also already got full NCAA approval.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, good.
This one they just approved based on the course title alone, as opposed to visualizing mathematics, which they needed a lot more info.
Any questions? All right. I will entertain a motion to move this on to the board with a favorable review.
Monica,
just a quick question. I'm so sorry. Is there any?
Sorry.
No problem. Is there any prerequisites for this class?
I don't believe we set. No, we did not set prerequisites. We do. That's the thing about when we set out to put together the next generation science courses, aligned courses. We really tried to line them up with. We tried to create them in a way that they could be flexibly taken just about in any order, although we do have a recommended order. So for most students, we recommend that this course takes place during their junior year because that's when they would be taking Algebra 2. It's really, for the most part, it's to make sure that they've already taken an algebra course. So by and large, this course could likely be taken in a student's sophomore year, or for some students, it could be taken in their freshman year, but then they're squeezing out other classes that would have normally fallen beforehand. So we haven't necessarily set prereqs for it. There are no other science courses that they would absolutely have to take in high school before this one. It's more along the lines of, we just want to make sure that they do feel ready for some of the calculations. We're talking just basic linear equations, but any student who's taken Algebra 1 should be competent there.
This would count as a science elective or just a science credit?
Yeah, this would count, for most students that take this course, this would count as part of their science graduation requirement, which thanks to the Board of Education, we increased from 2 credits to 3 credits over the last couple of years. Yeah.
The motion to pass this forward to the board with a favorable recommendation.
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Janice, and a roll call vote. Janice?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
And the co-chair votes yes. Thank you so much, Harold.
Thank you.
Presentations.
Harold.
I'm sorry, who was the first? Because I don't
I
hear.
was Debbie. Allison.
Okay, Allison.
Denise seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We do not have any old business. There are no tabled items. Karen? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
It might fall under old business, but we've asked historically when new courses are put forward that after they've run for a year, if we could get a feedback summary to the curriculum committee and the board. And so I just want to make sure that we do that for these as well, to make sure that we're staying on track. Okay, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen, and my apologies. I'm just rushing. So, with no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you so much to all of our presenters tonight. I'm very excited about what's to come. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Sorry I was so late. I had internet issues. I couldn't get in.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Harold, I wanted to let you